year now. It's a project to recreate a new life with our farm which is about 35 minutes away from Paris. We have this vision that farming needs a lot of attention from the farmers, but it also needs to bring in a different energy. And we thought that sort of bringing the artistic practice next to the farming practice would create an interesting collision. We want those two worlds to collide because artists like to think about fabric, farmers like to think about how the fabric is made, and we're here with our agriculture partner who is now working on creating a very strong hemp. We're working on creating very strong bamboo, and we could not imagine doing that without the help of Greg and Kulapat here. And so the whole process for us is to look at the farm and to look how we can make our farm better, make better products that comes out of our soil. So there's a whole technical process of analyzing how our soil is working and then how the artist can add value to it. So today we'll sort of talk about how the intervention of artists and architect can bring to the rural world. And would like to show you a very quick video. We'll maybe accelerate the video because it's about 6.5 minutes. So I'll suggest we start the first part, which is what we have currently, and the second part is what Kulapat and Greg are bringing to our current farm. We have this field, which is the field where we basically intend to have the hemp growing and the bamboo and the arena that Kulapat will tell you about. And the idea is to have the castle on one side and leave it untapped, not touching it, letting it as it is because it's history. But on the other side, bringing science, bringing artists to rethink on this field extension. So we consider this as part of the chateau, but at the same time as almost a different environment where we feel we have more freedom to create anything that's on our mind.
And if I may add, I think as you said, right, because the chateau is a seat of land owned, but supported by the land, right? It always the farm supports the chateau. So in this case, like what Benjamin mentioned, we reinvention of what the land can do. And the land is not only just agriculture, but it's art, it's design, it's innovation, it's technology, and it allows something that, instead of quantity, which just exists in the previous time, that is for quality. So I think that's the part of why we're all here together. Yeah.
Maybe I'll move a bit the movie so that we can see what we're going to be doing.
Ah, perfect.
On this visual because this is maybe the end of the life of the arena after all the bamboo have grown around. And maybe that would be interesting for Kulapat to explain how the nature is sort of taking over and hiding the arena once the bamboo has grown.
Thank you. I mean, this is the executive summary of the project. I think the idea is that, again, going back to the land, right? So how do we do that? So there's a saying called grassroots. This is bamboo roots. This is really starting from the ground and build it up. So the idea that we learn from what already exists on the ground, which is horses, agriculture, and of course we think about innovation in hemp and bamboo, which is very fast growing, we don't need a lot of water, working for other things. So the idea to come together of this group is, okay, let's create a space. First of all, there's already a farm on the property, so you already have the indoor component, beautiful structures, and then you create an arena that on an everyday basis can function for polo matches, horse training, and many other things. But then on special events, can be for concerts, for fashion show, for art installation, for community gathering, even farmers market, or many other things, because it is a place that is built with flexibility. So the idea very quickly is that the arena is built with that dimension so that it can accommodate a variety of things. The arena itself was made 100% out of bamboo, that to be around that. But so the idea, I grew up in Asia, so even though we love bamboos, the most wonderful experience when you walk through the bamboo forest, because you have this almost like a cathedral made in nature. Right? So the idea of wrapping the arena with the bamboo forest as you see, and be able to have the water, because bamboo love water. At the same time, the idea to create a sense of, if you see the chateau before, the chateau is also so known because of the bassin in front of it, and how this language of water, agriculture, and architecture combine. So that's why we have that. And you see around that is the plantation or the agriculture of hemp, which is, people might think of hemp in a variety of ways, but it is one of the versatile and very high yield plants that can give everything from fiber to hemp oil to insulation materials and other things. So we kind of built this understanding of agriculture from the ground up, using the arena as a place to almost like an encounter art and culture and technology. And that's why this guy is here.
I think it can also just be a gathering place for lots of different ideas to come together as one, and it's not necessarily, being someone who's been in many of Kulapat's spaces before, I can tell you that they always nurture that sort of engagement, not only with just the art or whatever it is to look at, but also with the community who enters those spaces, always creating a conversation around that.
And some of you might know Grant work already, especially his ceramic work, but he's someone that, because we both live in Los Angeles, he's definitely the center of ideas and energy in Los Angeles. And he worked, with other artists and collaborators. He worked in many medias, including clay, fabric, and many other medias. And I think that he could be a perfect first artist to really dive into this project, because you're going to get messy with the mud, with the clay, with the fabric, and everything around. In a way, he's so primal, but he's also very refined. And how the two come together as we look at the project, I think that's a very interesting way. And again, we started with no clear, okay, we're going to do this as a business plan, we're going to do this, not at all. I think, the vision that comes from Benjamin and Victoria was almost go back to those kind of bohemian artist communities and colonies, when they feel like, okay, we want to go, we live in the country, we live in the city, we want to go to the country, we want to have, a community of artists that think together, and in this case, Grant, and of course the experts in bamboo, the experts in agriculture and technology, and many other kind of people that we will invite to be part of this. Scientists, anthropologists, many other aspects that allow this to be a really meaningful ideas kind of think tank that really rooted back not only in the energy of the city, but also within the possibility of the rural area.
I think there's a real opportunity for lots of new ideas to come to the region, and by creating a bridge for other people to be inspired, it kind of turns on the spark in everyone's mind for their own self, for their own contribution. Not like, oh, what can I get out of this, but what can I bring to this, and how can I, by what I'm putting into this, create something meaningful to me, meaningful to the people of the region, meaningful to the people of the country, and all the visitors. I mean, there's an opportunity to inspire so many people through this project. So,
okay, Grant, maybe since we've had several discussions about hemp, because we're obviously trying to create connections between, so Kulapat's working on the bamboo, Grant's working on the clay, but we know that he likes textiles, so we're interested in having this vision about hemp.
well, actually, my full background, my background prior to becoming an artist was textile design and textile art in a way. So working with hemp is something that I'm familiar with, is in a finished product, having either hemp yarn that can then be woven or spun and knitted, or there's all these different applications for the fiber of hemp. And I think that it's obviously one of the most renewable sources of fiber. It doesn't use a ton of water like cotton or linen or these other fibers. It's extremely strong, one of the strongest materials. So there's tremendous value to growing that and to using it and creating these end purposes. Not just to be like, here's the fabric that we're going to be making, but to say like, here's something that you can make. Here's something that somebody else, another bigger fashion house, could potentially be like, oh look, there's an idea for them here. There's an idea for somebody else to come along. It's something that can, again, inspire many different people.
There's one more point that I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts, which we already talked about, the fact that when you're in agriculturalism, there's a need for myth. You have to create a myth for a cognac. a myth for the wine. We also want to help creating something, a myth around our hemp and around our bamboo. And what creates those myths very often are this idea of collective, of bringing a lot of people together under the same idea. How do you perceive this idea of, you were talking about community in California, of creating a community around agriculture that would not be only a rural community, but that would sort of entice different communities?
Well, I think there's more than one appeal to the land there. There's more than one draw. So I think even just getting started, building the studio, setting it up for artists to work, there's already a pathway for other artists to come, and that there's like you came and did this, you came and did this, and there's like a lineage and a history that every person who comes after is adding onto that, and they're continuing to add their own history and their own myth into that sort of overall idea. And it's not just like, oh, I'm picking up what this guy's idea was and now I'm going to do it exactly like that. They're going to come and say, oh, look, I can use these tools in my own idea, or there's ways that they can operate their own autonomy within the ideas that are in the foundation that's already being set. So yeah, in LA we have a tremendous community, and it's very, very strong, and it's not just artists and architects, it's everybody together. And you brought up this point last time about, I'll let you go because I know that's a great line. about the why not, yeah. So Kulapat has a saying about Paris is all about the why, where people are saying, well, why would you do that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And in Los Angeles, we have the why not, which is like, why not try it? What's the worst that could happen? Like, go for it. You can do it. We're all here to support you. It doesn't matter if you fail. We're all here behind you. And
well,
so,
I would say that people and I sometimes are the victim of the why, and are looking for the why not people to help us with the why not.
And you're also on the no team, on the yes team. We're just joking about the friends always like, no, whereas of course yes. So I think it's kind of course it's kind of like an over simplified, but I think there's a spirit that rooted in deep thinking. But at some point you also have to let yourself loose, like, well, I'm just going to try to do it, right? And I think that's, in this time, I think we need it, because I think society in general is very frigid with information. There's so much information. We don't really know how to react to information anymore, because we know we have enough information to make a decision. There's always false information, and all of these things allow the intellectual gravity of the process to be very complicated, because there's truth and fake truth and all of these things. I think that's why I think the artist practice is important, because it's built not on a critical discourse, it's built on a creative discourse. Right? So yes, there's more than one solution. So we just have to pursue it. There's not an ultimate solution in the intellectual critical sense. So I think on that note, combining the art and science together, I think Benjamin and Victor are interested in the idea of how do we engage, like this thoughtful aspect of landowner and agriculture. Like one thing about hemp, which is really quite, for me, struck me as of great interest, is that now, especially in architecture and environmental design, we talk a lot about waste, right? How do we recycle waste? Plastic waste, ocean plastic waste, and all of these. But the actual solution is like, do not create waste in the first place, right? So it seems like a redemption, like, oh, we have created trash, and now we have to eat up trash, just to feel less guilty about creating trash. But one thing about hemp, which is really not only like what Brad mentioned, that you take a lot less water, every part of the plant is being used. Right? So you use the fiber for fabrics and things like that. You squeeze do the oil of it, and the rest of the plant go into insulations and building materials.
And CO2 capture.
What's that?
CO2 capture.
That's right, that's right. So I feel like, in a way, hemp, we were joking, we all feel like hemp need a better agent.
Well, I actually have a meeting tomorrow at 8:30 with the official hemp agent for Europe.
and smoking and things, but as a plant, it has a lot of potential, but it has always been almost like a taboo. So the idea of, especially in this case, to build this arena, to build this field within this, 18th century, even older chateau, bring something new to the old, and I think that's a lovely vision. Yeah.
I think it'll be also interesting to hear Victoire about how instinctively you have two guys from California coming to your old French property. Like, why do we have?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I want to hear your answer.
I've been asking, I never had the answer.
So no, I mean it's a fantastic adventure because it's also been very organic in a way. We have been having conversation with Kulapat since the lockdown, and we had met this I think 2 summers ago in LA, and we thought he was an interesting character, very close to the artist, a great energy, and we went to the Marciano Foundation that he worked on, and which is a Protestant temple, maybe some of you have seen, and it was a real experience for me. I thought it was so well done because as you might know, it's this, keeping this kind of incredible architecture, but the way you transform the space, I thought was very subtle and very interesting. And we had a dear friend who after that invited us all together, and I told him this. I think this architect is very interesting, and so it was just through conversation and Grant. I mean, we met also, in a very natural way, and immediately we connected. He did this great project in Paris, where he's always, of course, influenced by the community and the place where he is. So we did a show together, which was about French brand. And you, as Kulapat mentioned, I think Grant is so interesting because he's he's someone who's also always kind of interested in different media and different ideas, and someone who always questioned himself. And immediately when we started talking about the project, we thought about him, naturally. So I think it's also great to kind of have, people who understand each other and that we connect so well together.
And also one interesting thing is that Grant said when he arrived, he said, I'm just here to build a studio for the next artist. I mean, your generosity is to your benefit. I would imagine that maybe the artist was like, I'm doing my things and then I'm gone. What Grant is doing is just preparing for the next artist, and I think that's very much in line with your community idea.
And well, that's why he's the heart of the content community in LA. I think in a way, Grant work is, his artwork is beyond the work we see physically. I think it's his friendship and his generosity and his curiosity towards other artists, which is, in a way, if you look back in history, at every artist movement, there's always the anchoring energy that get people together, right, from different movement, different history, time. I think Grant is definitely our glue in that aspect, and I think that because he wants to be part of something larger. He wants his practice to be important, but he also wants other, be able to make sure that he also allow other people to flourish. Be able to help others. So I think that come in, and that's why I think it's, there's almost, I cannot think of anyone better than him to really start this program, getting on the ground, dig the ground foundation to build it up.
Well, I really appreciate that. That's so kind. I do think I'm very curious, and I know that this is a tremendous opportunity to learn and to share whatever I learn, and that's something that really interests me. Part of this whole entire thing. It's not like I have a rigid vision of exactly what this should be for me and exactly how it has to be or whatever. I'm really interested in researching, learning what it can be, creating something. I mean, this is not like a one-time, for me, I'm not envisioning like, oh, this is over after we're done. This is something that I would be proud of for the rest of my life, and that I would continue to return to and continue to keep mining as a well of inspiration.
The first cycle, the first residence has been designed to start now and to end at the moment where we will be seeding the hemp. So we really want to connect the residents and the moments. For example, Kulapat's arena will open at the harvesting time of the hemp.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to have all the stages of the process connected to the agricultural cycles. Which
And one thing that I forgot to mention, which is how, architecture is always separate, right? Because you design and you build it very fast, you open it. So the idea from the beginning, like we want to try the best so that the arena is growing with the ground, so like, because we have the arena, we have the bamboo forest, and we have the hemp. So maybe first year, arena started maybe, like we have the area, and maybe we have seating for 200 people. And the bamboo forest maybe a meter tall, and the hemp is going through its first harvest season. The second year, maybe arena grow from 200 seeds to, let's say, 1,000 seeds. And then the bamboo grow from 1 meter to 3 meters, and then the hemp grow through another annual cycle, right? So the idea that the place is organically I know organic is a word that we use a lot these days, but how that we kind of allow chance to happen in the process and respect the cycle of time, and how we can learn through nature along the way, and make sure that we not just keep running and forgetting to see the scenery and seeing how we can incorporate everything else into our process. So that's part of what we have been thinking about.
I would say that the plan is at least a 5 years plan, because to have the bamboo at the mature height takes 5 years. So we have time to look at the project growing, very with time and no impatience, and let the nature grow as it should grow, without finishing a perfect stadium, and really to let it.
Thank God we're all teenagers. We have time. Well, it seems like we have questions.
Yes.
Oh,
Hi.
Hello.
On behalf of Asia Now, I'm Judy Wong, the Director of Communications. And I first of all want to thank you. What an incredible, really incredible conversation and ensemble of people and talent. I'm so excited to sort of follow the journey. So I wanted to thank you first and foremost.
Thank you.
And as a California girl, go Bears, UC Berkeley, you had me at home. But my question is this, s'il vous plaît. So we all know that they're talking about the unknown factor that could be called climate change. Have you factored in deviations in terms of the what ifs regarding?
May I answer this?
Yes, of course.
This is exactly the reason why we decided to partner with a professional agriculture company represented by Natalie right in front of you. And every year we'll be assessing climate change, soil changes with their company, with their biologists, to understand when we need to plant, when we need to seed, when we need to harvest. We already have a farming engineering in place, but we thought it was interesting, as this project is about having indigenous people helping us. We are bringing bamboo, we're bringing hemp, we're bringing Californian artists, Thai Californian architect, Russian agriculture company. We're trying to bring the best of the world to this very local place, because where we are is a very local and farming place. And to every season, not year, every season reassess our situation.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you.
and I think the idea, I think, of course, people use the word like test kitchen or laboratory, right? I mean, but the word that, like Andres Tell used in his project, test site. I think that's such a true aspect, because, where, we know enough to move forward, but we also know enough not to trust what we know.
That's true.
So I think that's give us enough.
There's a sentence that says, we know that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty useful when you're in the fields with the farmers and you don't know what they're talking about, to let them talk. And then to bring in several experts around, and then you need to make your own opinion, because otherwise you don't move forward. The artist and the architect that are working with us is to bring the best experts not necessarily the best local expert, because that would be closing ourselves, but to bring the best expert from all around the world, without notion, we like Russian, we don't like American, we prefer Chinese, we don't think about that. We really think about having the best of expertise from different world and environments. And for us, the most exciting moments is when the agriculture company speaks with the artist and when they disagree, because that's a collision. Every collision, every colliding ideas we can have with this project defines it.
Brings it forward exponentially.
Yeah, as Iqbal says, it's empirical. That's what you say. And we are okay with that because nature is empirical. Every year you try something new. Every year you increase. The arena might have a certain size when it opens in August. If we're very successful with making events, making great shows there, maybe Kulapat will have to double the size of the arena in the future. But we don't know that. But what we know is that if we double the size of the arena in the future, that will be made out of bamboo that we're growing in the garden of the arena. So it's really about, it's not necessarily about being fully green, because it's hard in agriculture to go fully bio, and when you have a certain size of agriculture, you cannot go fully bio. But the idea is to do the best we can. And to already do the best you can is better than saying I'm the best.
And again, I think there's something about creating an example for others to say, oh, look at what they're doing. They started something that they really knew what they didn't know, and they really started on something, and it worked out this way. How inspiring that's going to be for other people to look at and to learn from as well.
How about calling it Burning Man with a Conscience?
We actually do speak about Burning Man quite often about this project. And we're saying we don't want to do a Burning Man, but we're saying there's a lot of things.
I think the spirit is there. I think you actually touch on it. And the spirit is the renewal, right? The idea of burning the ego and be able to kind of really celebrate creativity as a discourse rather than creativity as a personal talent.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we obviously talk a lot about. And I think the idea, what Grant said is that he's building the studio for the next artist. The idea that we could be who we are, but we could also be helpful to others.
It's not destruction.
Which is in the world, it's become less and less so. So I'm really excited about it, and that's what agriculture is about. It's about building on last year's crop and previous years and all so forth. Yeah.
Any other questions?